Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. We are excited to be back for another amazing episode today. And today, we're talking about a fun and important topic. I would say I know our audience is women, non-binary, allies. It does not matter, but this is a really important message for each and every one of us to listen into, regardless of what you identify as, because it's something that we all deal with. I think that we as women play in this space a little bit more, but I'm going to say that please listen in and hone in. The guest that I'm going to introduce in a minute really does this so very well, and her career is in a space where she's consistently with females. So the topic is really women in sync and how we celebrate each other instead of competing. Okay. And I mean that, I don't mean healthy competition, right? I'm talking about, the petty Betty, the I'm insecure and jealous, so I'm going to be mean and try to tear her down. That's what we're talking about here. So again, I think this is a really important topic for anyone, but I really hope that you guys tune in and listen to this. This is a topic that we usually only talk about in onesies and twosies, but it's actually really, really important to your success. So if you're here to build yourself, grow yourself, and to be successful, I think there's some important tips that you're going to get today. So I would like to introduce Jessica Uranga. I am super excited to have her here today. Jessica grew up as an international missionary kid in Mexico. How cool is that? I mean, I haven't done it, but to me, it sounds really cool with her family. And she later traveled the world with a faith-based global program called Youth with a Mission. She and her husband, Eric, have been married for 13 years and together have 5 young children that they love raising in thriving and evolving Northwest Arkansas. With her experience in business and her heart for ministry and the nonprofit sector, she feels deeply connected to the holistic purpose, of Beautiful Lives Thrift Boutique and the eternal influence of lifting women and mending community that's been made locally and globally. And when she's not at Beautiful Lives, if you just sales plug, I'm sorry, but I absolutely love this place. If you have not been to Beautiful Lives, go check them out. They have several locations and it's incredible, especially the mission behind it. And I'm sure Jessica will talk a little bit about that today. But you can find Jessica outside of her job. You can find her with her family on their hobby farm where they grow organic American elderberry and watch fireflies in warm months. Okay, I love me some elderberry, especially with the nasty sickness going on. But welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I always like to kick off our podcast, so it's really understanding our mission is to bring authentic conversation to women in technology and just women in general. But we love to understand, what does authenticity mean to you?
Yes, I love that you're focusing on this topic, because I think I just am going to second what you shared, Tiffany and Jordan, as this is such an important topic that transcends regardless of who we are, where we're at in our career, how our age, anything, our experiences. This is something that matters to all of us. And so for me, I believe it has been being grounded in my purpose. I was created with purpose. I have purpose, and I am meant to live with great purpose. And so I think when we move through the world authentically saying okay, I'm constantly learning and growing, but I'm also know that I have specific giftings that matter and are meant for right now and to make a change and a difference in the world right now. And I think that becomes contagious to those around us. I know I've gotten questions before that are like, Jessica, just tell me a little bit more, what is it that gets you excited in the mornings? And so I think living authentically, it just has that way about us where people just want to stop and be like, tell me a little bit more. And so it's a great opportunity to share and be like, oh my goodness, I am excited about living out some of the giftings and things that I've learned, knowing that nothing is wasted. And I think that that's something that I just want to really focus on as well. We are all failing forward. And I think some of the most amazing stories in history are individuals that just did not stop. So yeah, I think that's what it looks like to live authentically to me.
I absolutely love that. And I would say that I love even how we connected, right? Your brain is curious and you want to know. And again, I think we weren't really created to kind of be nasty and petty. I think that comes from trauma and life experiences and whatever, right? So I'm just going to kind of leave that there. So what I want to say is, like, as you start feeling those things, I think it's really important, as we talk about authenticity, to kind of start asking yourself, like, why am I feeling this way? Like, is she really this monster I'm like making it out to be, right? Or I think just asking yourself why, right? To kind of do some introspective questions and ask yourself, like, why am I feeling like this? Dig a little deeper and maybe not react in the way that you want to, because it's very destructive. And the thing I love is, like, when you approached me, Jessica, you were like, hey, I don't know, we coordinated lunch and we came together and have lunch and we just asked a lot of questions of each other because we didn't know each other, right? Like, we didn't have an agenda because we didn't really know much about each other. We just wanted to, like, talk and learn about each other. And we both were in different spaces that the other one was kind of excited about. And I want to know how, okay, so I'm going to be real. So this is a boutique that you work at. So a lot of women, right? But I'd like to know how in your career, so not just where you currently are in your career and in your journey, like, how has really this celebrating, not competing, how has this really become part of your journey? And how do you navigate that in environments where you're around, other females constantly?
Yes, I love that. Okay, so at Beautiful Lives, one of the unique things about the organization is that so far, and this might change in the future, but so far we only have women on our team. And so our paid team. And so we have 54 women currently that are on staff. And we get questions a lot that are like, how in the world do you guys navigate like workplace conflict? How does this happen? How does it work? And I think it's been really beautiful. So we have 5 core values that we live by, which is growth, trust, honor, servanthood, and excellence. And then we have a little tagline for each of those of what that looks like to live it out. But we're continually bringing ourselves back to those. And when we focus on them, we're also always making it a habit, whether it be at our meetings or it be on our like communication threads. We have different tech like platforms that we communicate on. We are continually doing core value shout outs. And I think that has been really beautiful to cultivate a culture that is looking for the good in each other, because I think whether that kind of going back to what you were saying about kind of that nurture versus nature, I think the world can kind of teach us to see the negative or to find the negative to kind of get a leg up. But when we're seeing the gold in each other and then pulling the gold out of each other, it is a beautiful thing that begins to happen. And it does create a beautiful culture. And so then even that becomes something that we all just crave more and more. And I think we begin to recognize, and it slowly teaches us to trust the process of, when I build her up, it does not diminish who I am. If anything, it builds me up as well and encourages me in my growth journey, whatever that may look like. And so I would say that has been one of the key factors, and just encouraging one another, and also recognizing, like, even when we are talking to a new hire and we let her know, like, hey, your perspective is gold. And there is something that you have as a new hire that all of us have lost over time. And that is that we no longer see everything that we're doing with fresh eyes. And so you might see something and think, oh man, I wonder if they've tried this. Oh, and they might want to write it off and think like, oh, they probably tried that before. I won't bring it up. I'm the new girl. And we just tell them, like, don't feel that way. Like, maybe we have tried something before, but we need to try it again. And so I think there's also just that celebrating that there's no less than, more than. It is like, we are better together. And we say that a lot, actually. We are better together.
I love that, because we talk about making space. And I think that what you've just talked about is making space, A, for good, right? For the good to come out, but also B, for the newbie to have a voice. And that is so hard, because normally, like you said, they're kind of quiet. Oh, maybe they've already done that, right? But also just making space for them to have a voice. You said it more eloquently than me. I don't want yes people, right? I don't want to work with yes people. I want people to bring me problems that I haven't seen, or that maybe I've seen every single day of my life, but never recognized them as a problem or found a solution for it, right? Yeah. Bring me the problem and come with a solution. And I'm super excited. I also think, digging into what you were saying, is taking the time to recognize the good, right? I
Mhm.
think we've gotten to be a culture where we will leave a comment on something that made us mad, or we will go and leave a review on something that wasn't good. But we need to be leaving reviews and comments to people that we're working with and people that we see every day that are good, right? Like, I recognize what you're doing. I recognize that you've gone above and beyond here, or you've done this and this and that. We too, we live with core values, and I think that really structured our team as well. But taking the time to recognize upon those core values is great too, because then I bet it goes into your hiring process. Who you're
Yeah.
hiring, do they keep your core values? And now you're hiring people that it's easy to keep those core values with because they are naturally their core values.
Yes. Yes.
So kudos is what I'm trying to say. Kudos. I love what you said.
Huge shout out to our team because they're the rock stars living this out every single day. And I think I just want to add too, there is so much life when we speak this over each other. And so I think by doing these shout outs, by being intentional, like you were saying, holding space, being intentional to give these shout outs or speak that over each other. I think there's times even as women that we're kind of like, oh my goodness, that's how you saw that. Thank you so much. Or you see me in that light. And then we begin to kind of like stand up a little taller and be like, oh, wow, like I am respected, or she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And so I think it even just that is so life-giving and a catalyst that can sometimes change our life.
Yeah. Well, and
intentionality though.
Yes.
Right? Like it takes intentionality to do that, to surround yourself by number one, be particular about who you're surrounding yourself by. We kind of have talked about this before in other episodes, but what you put into you, and that's who you hang out with, what you eat, what you listen to, what you fill your mind and body with, all of that becomes what comes out of you. So you've got to be really particular about surrounding yourself with people that are intentionally positive, that aren't mean and doing nasty things and saying nasty things. And if you're at tables that are talking about people, get up and leave and watch your life change. But it's going to take intentionality to do that. But find those people, because there are people that are intentionally operating in love and light and positivity. And I think if you want better for yourself, if you personally don't feel right now, if you don't love yourself right now, if you don't often love others right now, listen, I know it's a little crazy right now, so let's leave that there. But if your natural response is to say something nasty on someone's post or comment on something like Jordan was saying, if that's your natural, I need you to like look inside. I need you to start asking, like, how can I change? Be that, like, how can I change? Who can I go hang out with? And again, it takes time. It's not a light switch, but I think you have to be super intentional about it, to your point.
Yes, so good. I agree.
Well, and I also think we see this with kids, right? Anyone that sees kids, you pour in, you have this calm voice, you have the moment you start raising or you're yelling or whatever, you're getting that right back, right? Like they're going to get to 10, 11, 12, and they're going to be doing exactly what you've been doing to them. And if that happens with kids, what's to say it doesn't change with adults and on, right? Okay, so kind of bringing us back, getting into this career, doing all of this, what were some of the hurdles that you've encountered? Everything can't be rainbows and sunshine. So what were some of those hurdles that you got over to really get to where you are?
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I would say, so I do not have a degree. And I think that at the beginning, it felt challenging, almost like there was this hurdle to face that was something that either validated who I was or what I was going to be capable of. And so I think in some ways, and I always have been kind of a scrapper or like okay, just watch me. And so since I was a little girl, and not out of like a not kind way, but just more of a like, it will motivate me. And so I think positioning myself very intentionally, finding people who did believe more in me or saw giftings in me. And when I started to find those people who began to speak truth over me or call me up into my purpose is when I really began to surround myself, similar to what we were sharing earlier, of like, find your people. Because as I began to do that, many doors and opportunities began to come available. And then it was on me to then steward those opportunities and walk through those doors, even when I felt completely like, oh my goodness, am I equipped to do this? Are all the people in the room going to actually think that I am meant to be here? Just kind of that like real deep imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I began to recognize was whether women like me had a degree or not, or whether they had skills that I had or not, we all face that to a degree. And I think we all can disqualify ourselves. And so I just want to like encourage all of us that there will always be things that we think are going to hold us back, but just keep going and keep putting yourself out there. And again, like that kind of a little bit of that willing to kind of risk and fall forward, and then know that like there's so much learning in that, and that we're going to get farther and we're going to learn so much along the way. And so I would say there were times that has been probably one of the biggest hurdles that I faced. But as I continue to go, it has been beautiful to see that there have been even more opportunities that are made available. And sometimes it's those very things that have held me back, or that I've wanted to use to disqualify myself, that are the very things that people actually seek out. And so it's been a fun journey.
I love that so much. So I know we talked about some ways that you guys kind of really work to focus on celebration in the workplace and vision. I would say that as this is a shift in narrative, okay? So this does not, again, we talked about, doesn't really come natural to most of us, right? It is a shift in the narrative. And so I think those of us that are genuinely after this, like that care about it. And again, we're not perfect. Some days we don't do it well. Some days we do it well. But those of us that actually think that this is really important. So this whole celebrating instead of competing, those of us that think this is really important, we're going to have to continue to stand up and stand our ground. We might be standing by ourselves. And truthfully, I can tell you, I don't have a whole hand of females that practice this well. Okay. Sorry, not sorry. It's the truth. Okay. And so the reason I'm saying is that I think that alone is not comfortable, but I think there's going to have to be enough of us that are willing to stand, even if we're alone, to start not just talking about it, because we're doing that today, right? We're on this episode, we're talking about this, but we need to do more than talk. We've got to be action too. We've got to actually live this out by example. So as we shift the narrative, really from that whole competition to collaboration, talk to me about some success stories that you've seen where women actually came together, were better together, and started supporting each other to really achieve collective goals. Because reality is, a lot of people that listen to this podcast are focused on career and business, but I think that they miss that collaboration is what drives success. So can you talk to me about where you've seen that really work?
Yes. So I think in the nonprofit sector, something I've seen, whether you're in the for-profit, nonprofit, ministry business, they can all have a little bit of we want to be one step ahead, or we want to have the best offering for the market, whatever that looks like. And there is an aspect to that keeps us all like innovative and keeps us going, which is exciting. But one thing that I've absolutely loved is when I find other leaders, especially in the nonprofit sector, that are willing to say, you know what, all ships rise with the tide. What do you need? And I like Becky Schaefer, who is the executive director of Saving Grace. She has been a beautiful example, especially as I've been growing in my experience as an executive director, to look up to her. And she calls me little sister. I call her big sister. And I'll reach out sometime and be like, hey, big sister, how should this go? And she's like, I hold everything that I've learned, everything that Saving Grace has been through with open hands. If there is anything you need or you want to learn from me, like I will share it. And so I think that whole concept of like not gatekeeping and sharing what we've learned. And she has been such a beautiful example of that. And it has benefit not only me personally, it has benefit Beautiful Lives as an organization. And so I think it has also encouraged us as an organization then when others reach out to us and say, can we do a tour, or can we come and see, or can we have a copy of your handbook? And we're like, absolutely, yes, because we want to share it. And we recognize that we're better together. If we had to learn the hard way and we can save you, then we would love to celebrate that and to do that.
I love that. We talk about mentorship all the time. So big sister, little sister, however you want to call it, right? We talk about mentorship all the time. And I think you just perfectly outlined what I was going to ask you next was about mentorship and how it's affected or changed your life. But there's also sponsorship, right? So who or how do you think sponsorship and mentorship has changed your career?
I would say it has probably been one of the key game changers. Like there are times where I think we can be nervous to reach out. I mean, even for an example, like what Tiffany was sharing, she came and spoke and I heard her at a networking luncheon. And so I would encourage all women, like, go to the networking luncheon, go be the first guest in the room. Like, even if you don't know anybody, go try, sit, get to know people, even just ask their name, start somewhere. But I went ahead and went to this luncheon, and that's where I heard Tiffany. She was the guest speaker that day, and she shares her title. She shares some of her achievements. And it can be easy to disqualify myself and think like, oh, I would love to go to lunch with her. She shared about a topic that was really close to home to me that day. I was moved to tears, and I just thought, goodness, I want to know this woman. And I put myself out there by saying, hey, would you be willing to go to lunch with me? And it took us a little while, like connecting on LinkedIn, and it was a few months later, but I just kept after it. And she said yes. And then we sat down together, and it turned into even just us being on this podcast today. And so I would say, even if it starts small, whatever that looks like, and then go after it, because you just never know.
Yeah. You never know what any relationship will or can bring you. Just if it feels right, if there's something there.
I ugly cried in that one. I don't crying. Listen, I have this whole like thing, and I'm not saying it's right, so please do not follow this. Okay. But I'm very particular about the spaces that I cry in, just because there's a lot, right? There's some vulnerability with that, blah, 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 blah. But this particular luncheon brought me to like ugly cry tears. And I think it's good, right? Because I do think, again, I'm not going to go everywhere boohooing, and that definitely was not in the plan, but it doesn't always go according to our plan. So number one, do that. Also, I think that it actually probably shows some like vulnerability and some space for others, because it was a pretty deep topic on what I was talking about that day. And I think if I just approached it as like the robot, I don't know how deeply it would have gone. But I think it's really, really important what you're saying, and having those people that really are in your corner that you can go to. And like, I love what you said about Becky, and like, I love her. Like, I haven't even like hung out with her or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to hoard all your stuff, okay? Like, sharing is caring. And I'm not using the like kindergarten phrase just to use the phrase. I'm saying that the more you share, the more you actually reap, and the better you become. But again, that's not a natural mindset to us. So we're going to have to really like train ourselves to start thinking about that. We always like to ask networks. And so I think we've heard a few things that you're passionate about today, but if people are looking for really places to plug in where this healthy, positive, build women up, connect, like what would be some support networks that you experience or that you would recommend to others?
Yeah, so I'll speak from a Northwest Arkansas perspective. Hustle and Heels has been a really great group that I've loved being a part of. That's through our local Chamber of Commerce. And then Women in Networking, WIN, NWA. And I believe they have chapters all over the US, but that one is a once a month luncheon where women come together and they network. They'll do different networking. Sometimes they're sitting at a table and networking the whole time with each other. Sometimes they'll do round robin or do different activities to hear from the room, bring in guest speakers. There's Polish Network, or now they have merged with Forward, which was actually a luncheon where I met Tiffany. It is a faith-based group that meets, and they meet once a month as well. And I believe those have chapters all over the US. So I would say find like whether it's a luncheon. I think too, as women, we can get busy, right? Like there's times we've got our families, we've got our careers, we've got our self-care. Everybody's telling us how to also make sure we're taking care of ourselves. And so I think it can be hard to say, when am I going to also carve out time to network or to get to know other women? And so I would say, even just, again, start with even something small. If that's the time that you have, go to lunch or find someone where you can just say, hey, can I have coffee for 30 minutes before I go into work? Whatever those little nuggets are in your day, it's going to make a multiplied impact in your life. And so I would say start somewhere, but those are a few here that I would highly recommend.
I 100% agree. Taking the time, it is self-care, right? You said we have to think about self-care, but we are social people.
Yes.
So taking that time to have that social interaction that we all need is also helpful for us. Okay.
And I think, Jordan, real quick, I just want to tag on to that. Like, we are made for community. Like, we need to know what it's like on the other side of ourselves, and our community is what will be a part of that. Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. We always like to ask our guests, what is the impact or legacy that you would like to leave? And it's kind of two-pronged. And then also, what would be like your words of advice for our listeners?
So good. I I hope to leave a runway for the next generation. So whether that is one individual or that is a huge group of women, I hope that they run on my ceiling. Like, I hope that I build something that they can then just take off and go so much farther. And so there's some exciting things that we're doing through Beautiful Lives, but also some things that we're founding this year that will put some of those runway pieces in place. And so super, super excited and thankful for all that's coming together. And then my words of advice would probably be just start. Like, if there is something that you listened and you heard in this episode and you're like, oh, I've been wanting to do that, pick one thing. Pick something, even if it's a small thing, to move closer to your goals, because it could be the very thing that it multiplies and changes your whole life.
I love that so much.
I do too.
Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today. I know schedules are crazy. I know it's hard to carve out time. We've just sat and talked about that a lot in this episode, but thank you for taking time out to come share your wisdom. Again, it's not just your words. I see you operating in this. So continue doing that. Keep standing even when you're standing by yourself, because you're leaving a legacy before you even really know that that's what's happening. So thank you for joining us. To our audience, thank you for consistently listening in. We're hoping that you guys are getting exactly what you need. Again, trying to really focus on those topics that we just brush under the rug and never talk about, but we're all bring with and dealing with. So thank you so much for listening and tuning in. And Jordan?
Like, share, comment, listen, all the things.
Yes. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.